You downsize, that means I can't.
I was like, I'm not gonna miss that. That's Captain Kirk from in and I saw him. 30 minutes.
Well, I'm gonna ask my
Kids in high school.
Only you right now.
Oh, yeah, we got 2 minutes. Is it just 2
I
minutes?
feel bad because.
Oh, here's some, there we go.
I know. But it's.
No, I'm always running it right up.
That's why we're here.
There was a crosswalk at Cedar, I could
Oh,
have
no.
crossed.
Oh, it's you guys crossing.
With kids on bikes next to you.
Yeah.
Children. Yep. So we were
Isn't
like,
it
let's block the street so the children on bikes can cross and not get hit.
Right,
Right, thank you.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, so Kansas high school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ninth grade. Yeah, it's doing well.
January.
Grown.
I saw the minutes, I was saying,
Remember?
but it was, yeah.
Was it?
No, we did.
Did we meet virtual?
Plans
It's
for.
all
Yeah,
done.
it was all virtual.
How about you, Matt Miles?
Snowstorm
Freshman, ninth grade.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Here, 122, I'll live.
Nice.
I haven't seen you in a long time.
Doing waterfall.
Snow or
Yeah,
ice or
back here.
something and it just got moved online.
So our left hand person was. Yes, it was a snow day that day.
Oh, okay, okay.
I put these weird notes in my calendar. Oh, and I had conflict. Okay. Hello.
We're up.
But then we met in person in November.
Your time is better.
Yeah. Which is, that's.
I don't. I'm good, how are you?
5 months ago?
We'll find out.
February,
Yes,
March,
well,
April,
we're
April.
kind of, well, then we had December, we had next door, for the catch porch.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
That
right.
was sort of.
Okay.
November.
No.
Yeah, November. I think so.
Yeah.
I was emptying on something at home and I looked up and went.
Because I was thinking better.
Your house looks good, y'all did a new color?
Yeah.
Yeah, you went from tan to, yeah, I love it.
It was supposed to be gray
We still.
until we painted it and,
Yeah.
that's blue.
Everything looks good.
I like it, yeah.
We do too.
I've always
I
wanted
think
to-
we're on, it's time. Yep. First of all, I will need to do a roll call. And we have Clark here.
Here.
Present. And what do I do with my notes here? I'm sorry if I seem a little combobulated, because I am. Or discombobulated,
Discombobulated.
that too.
Just combobulated.
Combobulated is like together.
Yeah. Or is it though?
Maybe.
I don't use that word.
I've never heard-
I've never heard it.
I've never used it.
I've
either.
never heard the word combobulated.
I'm gonna use it from now
So
on.
we
It's like
have
overwhelmed, you can't
Susan.
be whelmed, but you can only.
I'm very combobulated. And Steve. And
Yes.
Carrie. And I think that's it. But that's a forum. So that's what we want to be sure.
No, I didn't mean shocked, I meant good.
We've got,
That's my combobulated.
Acting Chief Perks is on Zoom as
Oh.
well as myself,
Okay,
and that's all I see right now.
all right.
You're on Zoom? It looks,
Jackson First.
this is amazing.
Yeah, no, I do.
It's really clear.
Combobulated is not.
Well, I would have voted no. Yeah.
Neither,
yeah.
hey,
You
neither
can
is-
know.
Not a word.
Neither is one.
You wanna
move them to panelists?
It is not.
It's not like my kids are like, look, Miss Mary, Gullible's written this.
It's not a word.
It's not a word.
So the next thing we need to do is to review and accept the minutes. And I saw the minutes came out and I went through them and they appear accurate to me, but do we have a motion to
Right.
accept the minutes?
Minus date on the one that was sent out
Oh, it's the
wrong,
wrong
but it's now correct, so.
Okay,
Southbound McKnight approaching Manchester, southbound McKnight approaching Manchester.
Hey, not me.
Yeah.
Turn your radio off there,
Vehicle
chief.
plate of Nora Avenue 7 Paul.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm driving, so I got myself, I got my video turned off so I can concentrate on driving still.
Can you, how about mute yourself, Greg?
Yeah,
And I'm muted.
Okay, anyone have something to say about the minutes?
I move that we accept them.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, it's none. Thank you. Okay, now this is the point where I normally read through the advisory commission's goals. So I'll do that very quickly, but then I have a comment after that. First, use safety as our guiding principle. Second, develop a complete streets policy specific to Webster Groves. And there's a little more there. Third, develop a written traffic advisory commission process for evaluating citizen requests. And 4, prepare a document of uniform criteria for parking restrictions. So those are the things that we've been working on. Now, in preparing for this meeting and putting together the agenda, I read through the minutes from last week or last month. I read through the action items. And here's what jumped out at me. While certainly we've been trying to follow these guidelines, there are a number of things that have happened very, very recently that call some of this into question. So first of all, no question about the safety being our guiding principle, but the idea of developing complete streets as a policy, while it's still something we're very interested in. Hello. That has been changed somewhat kind of outside of our control because of the Sustainability Commission and what's going on with them. So they're kind of in the midst of regrouping, I guess is the way to say it. The third one, developing the written process for the Traffic Advisory Commission, that is also somewhat under question right now because the city is in the process of developing kind of a new process for us and for everyone. So that's sort of up in the air. And then finally, our parking restriction project, which was very, very active, seems to currently be in question. So I find myself in an uncomfortable position as the chair of this commission because 3 of our important goals are getting discussed right now by people other than us. So this is a bit awkward for me. I don't know quite what to do with that. Clark?
I would add that the parking policy is not, they're waiting for us to say, do we want to revise what we put in front of them, tweak it?
Right.
Or do we want to say what we put in front is what we want you to deal with? And then it's off our plate.
And I absolutely agree with that. And I think that will be one of our objectives for tonight is to maybe come to an agreement on.
So that's still a priority.
It is, but what I'm saying is that the city, and I'm not criticizing, okay? I think everything that the city is doing is important and it's work that needs to be done. But they've gone kind of sort of independent from us and talked to the school board and have a new solution to some of what we considered a problem for us earlier.
And I really disagree with that.
Yeah, I don't think it's a solution either.
It's addressing one little tiny part of what our goal was to have a uniform guidelines and parking policy for Webster Grove.
And I still believe that's what we should do.
Then I think
Right.
that needs to be on here
Right.
until we get it in front of city council, and then it's up to them to vote.
To do what they're gonna do with it.
Correct.
I agree. So let's move ahead. But I'm just saying, I find myself in an uncomfortable position because many things are stirring around us without much of our input right now. So, having said
And
that,
we haven't met in so long. I have
Yes,
to
and-
refresh my memory every time
Yes.
we reconvene.
and that's what
The action.
the action items really come in handy in that way. Okay, so let's move along. First of all, we need to invite our guests here to have their say. And you'll have 3 minutes, plus or minus. And we will not be responding to you directly, generally speaking, but we want your input, invite your input. And so if I could, anybody want to go first?
I'll be the timekeeper and I'll agree with the minus, but not the plus.
Well, it has a way of drifting beyond that, but I understand. All
What
right,
do you mean?
does anyone want to take a turn?
No.
Go for it.
All right, 3 minutes. Dave Buck, I've lived at 124 South Elm for the last 16 years. But we're putting our house on the market to sell the middle of May. So this is my parting shot on traffic. We lived there 16 years. Here's what I like about South Elm. Number one, we've had no problem ever getting in and out of our driveway. Even during rush hour, we just wave to people, they let us in. It's just not a problem. Second thing is that there very rarely are bikers on South Elm. And there very rarely are parked cars on South Elm, except for garbage trucks, the occasional FedEx van and whatever. But nobody ever parks cars along South Elm from Lockwood to Big Bend. I think the fundamental question on South Elm is what is its role and function in this community? Because if we define it as a residential neighborhood street, that's one thing. If we define it as a commuter artery that connects the north and south and plays a fundamental role that way, that's a different role and definition, and I think it leads to different expectations. I'm not saying what's right or what's wrong. I'm used to, Barbara and I are used to it being a commuter thing, and that's what it's used for. And I think it's essential to me because it does connect the north and the south together, both during rush hour, going both ways. My only complaint or my only positive observation is to say is your number one objective is safety. I think it's all about speeding. I'm just concerned about speeding. And from my standpoint, the Elm, South Elm Swan intersection, which used to be a four-way stop a long time ago, now it's a street lights. And people ram through the green and they ram through the yellow. And like other four-way stops in this city, it should be a four-way stop, whether it's stop signs or stop lights, but it should require everybody to stop. That's all I'm saying. The other thing is crosswalks at Cedar and Elm and Jackson and Elm, because kids do cross there and it's a dangerous crossing. So from a safety standpoint, those are the three things I do. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Who would like to be next?
Okay, I can go.
Okay,
You want me
your
to
name
stand?
and address?
My name is Andrea Renbeck, or I'm sorry, that's my maiden name. I'm a little nervous.
It's gonna be whatever.
Okay. Andrea Lacy. I live on 160 South Elm. We have been there almost 14 years. We moved here from Alexandria, Virginia in DC, which is an extremely walkable area and also has lots of traffic. So understand that there's, you can have both. And one of the reasons we came here was because it's a beautiful place to live and walk, and you can go places within the area without having to get in your car. I hear the problem between having it as a neighborhood street and a commuter, that those are two obviously very different things. I had heard a couple, and I've seen it done where the light is at Elm and Swan goes red and everybody has to stop. And I actually have found that to be really great, although understood that during rush hour, that doesn't make any sense. And I kind of wonder to myself, as having, during those rush hour times, maybe that's when we define Elm as a commuter space. And during the times when we know there's not a rush hour, we define it as a neighborhood space. I don't know how you come to that conclusion, but having lived at 160 South Elm, right there on the corner, almost every week you hear and then every once a month there's a crash, and 100% I have seen almost every time I've walked past or through that intersection, people speed up and try to make it through that red light. And there's so many kids that are so young and don't have the executive function to, oh, I'm gonna look both ways. Sure, they do it most of the time, but you know, that one time, I really don't ever want that to ever happen. So I agree that maybe there might be a crosswalk at Clark and Jackson, or even a stops. I don't know what the solutions are, but there are just so many kids that I worry that something bad could happen.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, everybody. Rick Olshak. It's Oleshak, 139 South Elm. I've lived here, boy, since 2005. It's almost 20 years, so we're excited to be here. Great part of the community. So we've seen a lot of things change, right? And a lot of it, frankly, goes back to when Highway 40 was shut down. So it's been almost 15 years, somewhere in that range. And it became from this community to a commuter, right? A lot of people are going from north to south, 40 area to 44, and that continues on today. It's the cat's out of the bag, right? It's kind of like Adam Sandler, what the puppy lost its way, right? We've changed, our world's changed, and people are flying through and they're trying to go from one place to another. And that's okay. We started with the stop sign. We're not going back to that. Let's be honest with ourselves. We had the golden toilet for a long time, but I think we all know the history. And the stoplight is fine, but if people would respect the 25 miles an hour. And I'll raise my hand. I don't always drive 25, right? I think we all kind of looked at him and you go, oh, I'm 31. I need to dial back a little bit. And I know there's an officer in the room, so hopefully it's not listening to me. But so I have to look at other places in the city that has had areas where they're speeding. We've all been on Manchester Road. If you've been here long enough, you know by the train wreck saloon, there used to be a speed trap. It was famous. And that officer of the law, I think, retired. So it's kind of lost that kind of respect level for that area. But I think we need a little bit more enforcement along that stretch. You know, is that where we take the speed limit signs and you put the solar, pieces on top? So now you've got an automatic radar detector, right? So you have an idea, and it's flashing, it's telling you if you're going too fast. You don't have to bring in the big machines. When it's solar, it's easy. I think those little things, and if we become an enforceable area and be known as, hey, you better watch your speed. I see it every day. I'm mowing the lawn. Here, wrecks down at the end of the street. We've talked enough about kids and pedestrians and pets. Boy, I mean, imagine kicking a ball that goes in the middle of that street. If somebody makes a wrong kick, boy, you've got a real mess. But I'll leave the rest to others to really kind of build on, but I think that important step of just kind of really targeting the miles per hour, I think would be an important first step. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll go next. Cindy Olshak at 139 South Elm, 20+ year resident. Was here in many meetings about the stoplight, no stoplight, stop sign, the whole thing. 2 points I have kind of leading back to that. The first one is, I remember sitting in meetings and a lot of the city officials that are no longer with the city, I don't believe, promised us that the street would get repaved after Highway 40 opens. And it was something that the officials over at dealing with Highway 40 promised the city of Webster, hey, let us make you a commuter street. Let us put in this free stoplight to you. When 40 opens, this whole street from Big Bend all the way down to Lockwood would be repaved on their dime. Never happened. And I feel like we're constantly asking for, why did that never happen? I thought, oh, maybe with all of the water lines going in, they're tearing up the streets. Maybe this will finally be our moment. And in talking, I don't know if I was like the unofficial proxy for the street with the water department, but I was on the phone with the water department, like, hey, I'm hearing, like, what's the plan? You're gonna, like, is the street being repaved? No, we're just patching and doing the side of the streets that we're messing up. The city said that that was totally fine with them. Talking to the city, hey, this is what the water company's saying, and they're like, oh no, like, they said that they would pave it. I'm like, okay, guys, who doesn't have the dealings right? So that never got done. So I think if we're talking about the stripes and doing the crosswalks, I think this is a great time to show the residents of Elm Avenue that we matter, because I'm gonna feel that if Tuxedo Park, Webster Park, any of the other neighborhoods had to deal with what we deal with on a daily basis, hell would be paid. And their voices would be heard, and they would be getting what they want. So all we're asking for is a safer street, because our street is not safe. I don't tell resident or people that come visit me, I'm like, park on Swan, because I've had people park on Elm and their side mirrors have been broken. Multiple friends have had that happen. So the reason you don't see people parking on Elm is because it's not safe and that accidents happen. And then also with the kids, like, is it gonna take a kid getting hit for us to finally wake up and go, oh, we need to do something? And I feel sorry for the person that has to make that sacrifice. So I think the crosswalks are great, but I also think it needs a light, like up on Lockwood, that says, you know, people are wanting to cross. We have a house down in Florida. When you cross from the beach over, you push the button, everybody stops. So I think that is gonna need to be done besides just a crosswalk. Because as proven, the commuters are disrespectful. They don't care. They speed up. They will not stop. None of them stopped when we just tried to cross. We were standing there trying to cross. No one stopped. If anything, they sped up. So that needs to be handled. And finally, I know I'm over, but you keep having these meetings. When is something gonna happen? You just meet. And I feel bad for you guys because you're on these meetings, and I'm sure you're on calls, and I'm sure you're on emails. Stop talking. Just get some shit done. Sorry. Get it done. Like, let's make some action happen. And what can we do as residents to make some action happen? Put us on a task force. Do something. But I'm loud and I'll keep talking.
No, thank you.
I'll keep talking, and I will talk and talk and talk until stuff gets done. So what do we have to do to move the process forward? So, yeah, that's my.
Thanks, Cindy. Okay,
My name's Lisa Erkin, and I live at 222 Sylvester. We have noticed, we've lived there 20 years, a huge difference in our parking. I mean, Sylvester's a heavily traveled street. And same thing, that stoplight at Swan, it's not really a stop sign, people just, especially, you know, the kids. You know, there's an issue, since Swan, the parking on East Swan was mitigated. We're even heavier, we're all the way down the street now. Every morning I get up at 8 o'clock, solid cars. If I need to have somebody come do something at my house, I have to move my cars out and, you know, park over on a different street to let somebody in my driveway. I find a mirror in the street probably once a week, you know, and sometimes I post it on Facebook. There's some kid's mirror, some parent wants it back. It's usually this. And it's just gotten to the point now that, you know, and also when you're coming up, when you're driving down from Lockwood to Big Bend, you stop at Swan. When kids are there, you can't see, you have a blind spot, you know, going towards Big Bend, you can't see oncoming traffic, and I unfortunately live up there. I have to make a left-hand turn in, I come from Clayton. And, you know, I always approach it slowly, but there's always somebody coming down fast down the street, and I've been sideswiped, I can't tell you how many times. Because you just can't see, and there's no place for you to get over once you've started. So, you know, we've been very disappointed with the traffic and just the volume of traffic and all the parking on our street. We've been there 20 years, so I get it, kids have to park somewhere. We have no resident parking on our part of Sylvester at all, so it's just pure, you know, parking every day, all day long.
On both sides? From one
No,
side?
well, you can't get two cars through at the same
Okay.
time, so, right now. I mean, the only thing you can do, and you know, I guess. Some kids, I mean, I've taught my kids because we live on the road, but you know, they don't get over, they don't know right away, or it's only chicken every day.
The west side of that block has.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's what I was trying, I thought so.
Right.
Okay,
And that's the side we live on. And we had I had to call the police today. We had a big tree taken down in our backyard. It was like a, 12-foot circumference oak, and we had raised tree out there, and we just had a nightmare, the morning and, being the parking, somebody had me out there to direct the traffic, so. At the very least, we'd like to see at least some resident parking on our street. It seems like every other block around us has it, but we have none.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I apologize to all of you. We're in an awkward position here because we're volunteers and we can bring these issues up to the city, but we can't guarantee any of you that we can make those changes. So just so you're aware of our situation. Okay, thanks again.
That's why we're like, we know you're volunteering, we know you spend, just hearing and talking to you, because she's on our street. Lots and lots and lots and lots of hours are being spent, but I've not seen any.
And
what
certainly,
can we do to help you further that? Like, are there city people we can be like knocking on their door?
well,
What's going on?
so ultimately and I hope you don't mind if I say this, ultimately, we are here to make recommendations to the city council.
Right.
And so certainly we are hearing what you're saying and we're considering what we can do. But we're limited by, we can make a recommendation and cross our fingers.
But then when does the city council, like, is that like an open session, like that we could again come to the
course.
city council and be like, hey, y'all, what are you talking about? And like,
Yeah.
let's get some.
So the place online, you can submit, I think, comments to the city, which go in front of the staff and city council. So.
Yeah, I sent a bunch of emails today.
Okay.
Now, I will share with you that the city is interested in developing a new process that is a little more thorough and consistent so that questions like yours can be brought to the city and you fill out a form. I don't know the details because that's all being worked on elsewhere, but hang in there. Okay, I
Well,
think-
and the other thing is, I don't know if you've read about it, but the city of Webster Groves was awarded a $2.1 million Safe Streets for All grant.
So
Well, I know we want to do things fast, but sometimes things take time. So they'll be hiring somebody to really be the oversight for that. And there will be more direction in this because you don't get that money and don't perform. So the purpose of that is to do what we're all talking about want to happen. So I have hope that we're moving in the right direction. And I'm impatient as you are sometimes, the wheels of government sometimes take time.
right.
But they're totally moving in the right direction.
Okay.
And if you look at the Webster Kirkwood Times this week, there was a letter from Kirkwood
Right.
saying we are on the forefront of this. They've been doing it 10 years. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of pushback. People that don't believe the way you and I might believe on something, there's a lot of pushback. They're talking about, they're working on South Elm from Big Bend South.
Right.
That's gonna start happening. Part of that is traffic calming, narrowing the lanes, adding a bike and walk lane. And there are people saying, that's horrible. So, we don't all think the same way, but there really are steps moving in the right direction. We might be as frustrated as you are that it's slow.
Yeah.
We put our complete streets policy in front of the city a year ago this month. And here we are a year later. So
Right.
it's frustrating from time to time, but keep your voices and don't just talk to us, talk to the city manager and talk to the city council. Let them know.
Got it. Well, and like Ann is great because she like sends us like, who do we need to talk to? Here's an email. And like I shot off a bunch of emails today. So I think
Yeah.
just telling us like that we're going in the right direction
Yeah.
and like if you like, hey, you need to talk to this person or this person or.
I am
if it's
very hopeful
specific,
that.
I have no problems writing and emailing and rallying the troops and I can do all of that. So,
I would just think in the whole scheme of priorities, this has to be near the top. It's not. Because it's a main thoroughfare and kind of the entrance to the city. It's what people think about Webster Groves. You're either coming in on Lockwood or Big Bend or Elm. I think Elm is obviously it's.
yeah.
I
Okay,
think can I also ask, and I'm sorry, I just don't think we need, we have a lot on our agenda tonight, we only have an hour, but.
So if any of you choose, you're welcome to sit and listen in as we go on, or if this is a good time, you're welcome to leave. So
You guys.
completely up to you. Thanks again.
Thank you for all of you guys for all that you're doing.
Okay, so the next thing to talk about is our parking proposal. Where are we and what are we gonna do? Anyone want to begin this
The
conversation?
question is if it's really even in our, on us right now. I was under the impression the city was evaluating the performance of the current
Yeah,
draft attempt, and then they were gonna let us know what they think.
well, so the city manager, I believe, went and talked with the Board of Education
Okay,
to talk about what they were willing to do, and they have a number of things that they're willing to do, which will it'll nearly increase the number of parking spaces to accommodate the students, not quite, but almost. Now, the question though is that an important enough change that we want to reconsider our proposal?
no,
I would say no. I would say that proposal stands because there are gonna be other places in the city where a similar situation happens, where people are parking in a neighborhood and filling that neighborhood up. So I'm inclined to think that that's still an active thing, but there were some other issues that are still sort of unclear in our proposal. Some people are uncertain about, well, does this proposal count for 24 hours? Or is it only during the workday? Or only during the school day? So that's an issue that's come up and needs to be
Didn't we
addressed.
discuss that before? I thought we talked about that
talked
enforcing
about
a
it, but
rule that changes is harder on the police and harder on citizens to comply.
Absolutely.
But I think it's written, I was surprised at my own understanding of it when I went back and read it. Again, that it says during restricted hours. And what I heard the mayor say to us, Chris, in that meeting we had 2 weeks ago was, and Carrie, this might answer your question, that they were coming back saying, do you want to leave it as is? Do you want to tweak it based on feedback? And we haven't gotten all the feedback yet.
Right.
Or do we want to just
Drop it. Yeah,
And I thought those were the three things that I heard them
that's what I heard.
say to us.
Yes, that's what I
And
heard.
My takeaway is we need to look at it and see if we need to tweak it, also based on the feedback from the experiment on Swan.
Right.
And then see if this 24-hour, 24/7 is what we all think should be in there.
Right.
And do we need to rewrite some of that?
So I think that is what I heard, and that's sort of what the direction I'm inclined to go in, but I wanted to have a conversation about that before we proceed. Does anyone else have a different view?
I would like to point out that I don't think what was installed is necessarily what we wrote, so maybe if we're revisiting our documentation, maybe we find a way
Take a look at that.
to make it maybe more clear what our intent is,
Okay.
so.
I think back to what got the issue before us was a parking issue in a neighborhood during certain times. And so that's how I have perceived it as going forward. So it was a surprise to me that it's summarized now as a parking proposal for the city, meaning it should be enforced in every street. So when I think of Swan, you know, the conclusion of my neighbors is if you put parking on one side of the street, then it belongs on every street, you know, throughout the city. And I don't think.
I'm sorry, Steve, I'm not quite following.
So if we
Say that
have
again.
18 to 26 foot wide streets, should only have parking on one side of the street,
Oh,
then every street in the city should be limited by that. And that should be enforced. And that's counter to what I thought our purpose was. I thought our purpose was dealing with problem areas and working at those problem areas. So that's why I am convinced that applying it for restricted hours as was written, and that's all that I can vote for.
So that's another issue that we need to address, because
Well, I
if it's
think-
not clear to us,
Yeah,
then it's certainly not gonna be clear to someone who's new to this issue.
Well, I think it is clear. You just like it the way it is and other people like it a different way. It's not unclear. As written, it's clear.
So,
No, it's not,
Rob,
because it says for restricted hours.
Yeah.
And so if you're saying no restrictions. then-
No, it's clearly written. It's clearly written restricted hours. I don't like that, but it's not unclear to me.
okay, so if we have but going back to what Carrie said, if we have the opportunity to reconsider it, this is the time to do it. And that is not clear among us even.
Well, our decision is unclear. The documents.
The document's clear, but is it what we want it to be? Okay, so that's another. Anything else?
I guess my assumption when we started this was just like we have a stop sign policy, when people come to us and say, I would like a stop sign, we go to that policy and say, does it check these boxes? So my assumption was we have a parking policy, and when neighbors come to us and say, we have a parking problem, can we get parking restrictions? We go and see if it checks the boxes. So in that sense, it wouldn't be uniform across the city. It would only be where residents say they have an issue and they would like a restriction.
And that's the way I understood it.
But these residents only came to this commission with a request. They didn't come for a 24-hour policy. The residents came with a limited period.
But we
Well-
want the safest outcome for the city, regardless of what people ask. for.
Well, that's the only time there's a problem. There are no parking.
I'm not certain that's true. because
I don't buy that either.
But
On my street
all it
right
takes
now,
is two cars parked next to each other, and boom, your fire truck can't get through. It happens on our street all the time, and we have zero
we
restrictions.
have this problem on Cedar right now because of construction on our street. It is absolutely dangerous. Probably a fire truck cannot get down the street.
Yeah, all you need
And
is,
that's applied throughout the city.
Well, that's my feeling. I mean, I'm open for debate. I'm not, that's my position, but I'm not being, I'm listening to you, so, we're working together.
But I think the challenge on that is that in light of the amount of work in front of the city right now, to change a rule that affects the entire city all at one time is just hopeless.
I don't see why that's our choices. Why is it, if it's gonna be 24 hours, it has to be everywhere? I
You
don't-
said that's what the policy is. You said,
Right, but the policy is when you come to us and you have a parking problem, we say, here's,
well, anybody
The
can say,
solution.
I'm having trouble getting through my street.
right,
Oh.
then they come to us and they say, our street wants restrictions, and we say, this is the parking restriction.
That's my
policy.
understanding, because Webster doesn't have the ability to go implement this everywhere, but if someone from Cedar were to come right now and ask for it to be implemented, we would do it on
Just
a
like they-
case by case basis.
Historically have come to us and said, here's a petition, our block wants a parking restriction, then
Is that process defined? Because if I come and complain, but the rest of my neighbors don't, now they're all mad at me.
it is
We asked for a
defined in there.
petition.
it's, I'm curious, because it's not defined in the city ordinances. Apparently, it's defined that you need to have 50%, but it's not defined in the ordinances. I haven't been able to find it. I don't know if anybody else knows where it
I mean,
is.
policy is it's 50%, but the rules are not.
We were told at
an
least
unwritten
51%, yeah, unwritten rule.
Yeah,
At least
yeah.
51% of the residents on the street need to request it.
So along these lines, David's not on there, is he? There is a sidewalk policy in front of city council right now, which we weren't even advised of or brought up to speed on. Yeah.
Did that come up through sustainability or
Public Works.
Public Works?
So y'all brought it up? Did you bring it up? Cause you know us and you're like, they would like.
No, you would.
But isn't it very similar in that there's a percentage of neighbors?
we've been working on it, but again, it's still in the works.
So I'm confused. Some people want sidewalks only during.
Yeah, restricted hours.
Okay, so I'm trying to capture this. Forgive me for taking us back a moment, but I want to be clear. So one issue that's on the table is it 24 hours or is it not 24 hours? That's the first one. The second one is it all of the city or just the people who come forward that this is going to apply to? What were the other ones? I want to capture them because I don't want to lose
The
them.
other one would be part of what we were after was a policy that was applied, the elimination of so many differences in the same area. So one block having certain
Yeah.
treatment, another one.
Fairness, equity.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
So for instance.
It's
around
kind
high
of what
school-
Sylvester's talking about.
yeah.
Yeah,
Street by street versus areas.
Yeah.
Okay, now I've got another one. And that is, some people would argue that you can get parking restrictions, but not designated half and half. You can get streets that are parking is designated half and half, but not the width restrictions. Should those be separated?
I think the intent was that it was the intent, since I did the original draft, was that it was a two-tier policy. So if Sylvester came to us and said, there's too much parking on our street, we want restrictions. That's one thing.
Right.
But then we want a portion of that reserved for residents is the next step. So you could have parking restrictions without having resident-only parking. Because according to ordinance, if you have resident-only parking, you have to have a parking tag in your window to park there. And there may be streets who don't want that. There may be streets who don't think that even if there's only parking on one side, it's not gonna
That's
fill
way
your
too
state.
complicated.
What do you mean?
Well, it's just, I mean, we're getting, 2, 3 tiers, and then we got whether the fire trucks can get through or not. and-
That's the first tier, that's width. Based
Okay,
on width,
So you're saying,
one side or two
you're
sides.
saying everybody's gonna get that? if you
Everybody
come-
who asks for it,
Every,
yeah.
well,
Only
what if
if
you
they
don't
ask
ask
for
for it?
Then you don't get it.
change.
Then you don't
Yeah, but
change.
then we're letting the city down, and, I mean, I don't get that at all. I mean, if you are so safety minded, then let's make sure every street is safe.
It's in.
This is the
And it doesn't-
response, it is safety minded, but it is a response to resident requests. If the street is not saying, we're concerned about our street, then we're not gonna get in the middle of it.
So wait, so let me clarify. So some streets can come forward and say, we want the street measured and the parking to reflect the proper, whether it's one side or two sides, whatever.
Yes,
So that's number one.
that's one.
And then, in addition to that, we want one side of the street to be for residents and one for,
Well, if it's wide enough, or we want a portion of that to be for residents.
right,
And we all agree that we will go get a resident tag and put it in our window to park on our street.
Which is
That's
why
why
you
it's
said
two-
50%.
That's
Yeah.
why you should have two tiers.
Yes.
you're telling me then, if I want parking to be shared, I can't have that and not have, well, of course, that would make sense, right?
Yeah,
Well,
you'd have to do
first we have to
restrictions
know-
first.
Okay, so those are the only two options. You can get the restrictions confuses me. You can get the street measured and the parking limited on one side or both. That has to happen first. And then if in addition to that, you want shared parking, you have to tell us that.
Yes.
It has to be
That's
50%.
just, yeah, that's
And it has to be-
the intent. I'm not trying to,
So,
okay.
this was the
I
intent.
am concerned about asymmetric lawmaking. If every citizen on a street moves out and they're stuck with this law and they're like, none of us like this.
They could all repeal it.
They can repeal it.
They can
Okay,
ask.
so it does go both
Yeah,
ways.
yeah.
But that's another issue that we need to address. See, this is, the details is what's missing from our policy.
It
right
may
now.
not be, maybe we've
Well,
just forgotten.
Maybe.
No, we don't have a real appeal policy because I don't think we have one for anything.
That-
How do you get
that's-
rid of
That's the part
other
that,
ordinances?
that's the part that is not, is the streets that already have full restriction.
If it can't be
How
repealed,
do
you
you
may
make
as well
that
make it
restrict?
universal because
Swan was a temporary, right?
Right,
So.
Yeah,
but I'm like Mason and Joy.
Yes,
How do you make those shared as opposed to what I would call hoarded? Sorry,
Everybody on the street wants
I mean,
to board our park.
This is the conversation that's been going on since I've been a police officer
Right.
in Webster Groves.
but I mean, if we put these parking guidelines forward, which is what I think our goal is,
mhm.
you know, I think we're talking about going forward, but how do you go
if
backward?
it came to safety and you can't get a fire truck down the road, why would you ever repeal it and why would you not make it universal? If by accident, you can keep the truck from going down the street, it's bad. And that's where just load, like my street is loaded right now and it won't be in 6 months. It's still a danger. It's a danger when that load
I have
occurs.
a quick question. For an old block like mine, that has always had parking on one side only, since we've lived there 30 years, how did that happen? I mean.
Willy-nilly.
Even
Yeah,
if the
they're-
decision that got made according, I mean, they're just listed in the
I mean, it's a
ordinances.
narrow street.
Yeah,
But last summer, our entire street was chopped up with the sewer stuff. It was terrible, but it was not safe, but it was temporary and we wouldn't have done anything at that point
But
because
you already had restrictions that made it a little bit safer than if they had not been.
we couldn't use our street for a good part of the summer. We were all parking.
Can
down
we,
the Summit.
well, not that this is not important. it
I'm
is-
just curious of how that happened.
Can we write down some of these
Website.
questions and then
That's what I'm
just in
looking
the interest of time, keep moving through the agenda?
Or wait, or do we need to get the group together? Again, do we tell the city we're tweaking it, get our group together, that it's heard?
It needs more attention than can be paid during just this hour.
Based on the conversation I'm hearing, it's pretty clear that there's
It needs
agreement
more.
that we need to put more time in on this and get these details worked out. They may be changed, but at least we've addressed them. Before we send it
Agree
forward.
with you, Hunter, if we don't know what's in it. Or how we're interpreting it,
Right.
how could we expect anyone?
I'd like to see a lot of debate between us because I am, you know, you and I are coming at it from a different view, but I want to know your arguments before we
Yes,
decide.
I want to hear all of it. Okay, so can we then capture this list and go back to the city and tell them we're rethinking this and we want to come back with an updated version? Is that fair?
How are we updating? Who's updating? it?
We are going to tweak,
I mean,
No, it has to be one of those side meetings, right?
I'm sorry.
It has to be one of those sunshine friendly side meetings.
Oh, yeah, it'll be another meeting.
Yeah,
It'll
yeah.
be another with an agenda, with a date.
I mean, a full meeting or a
Full
working
agenda.
group to rewrite it.
yeah.
Like we had a working
I think
group.
it has to be full because as soon as you, 3 people bring it back, we're all gonna jump on you again anyway.
And do the same.
I do too. I think it needs to be a face-to-face meeting where we can all talk this through.
We can have a working session, right? Sunshineable,
Well-
and just, it wouldn't be open to public, or
No.
we wouldn't do the comment period.
That's
No,
exactly
it
right.
has to be the full,
No,
it's all or nothing.
No,
No,
not for this.
You can do a work session.
We can do a work
With
session.
everybody,
You could call it a work session, but it's gonna have the same requirements.
you can have all of, like, people can come and sit and watch you guys work.
Right.
There's not gonna be time for public comment, there's not gonna be
Oh,
those
I-
pieces that make it a full meeting, so.
Well, according to what we recently heard from the city,
Right,
it is a full meeting with all the elements of a full meeting. It might not have.
No, Chris, she's correct. Like the city council has their work session. There's no interaction.
Well, I
It's just
understand
a-
that. I understand that. But there can still be citizens here
Yeah.
to listen in.
Right,
yeah.
It's still
Just
gonna
not
get,
Public comment.
yeah,
just no
right.
comment.
But it's still gonna have a quorum. It's still gonna have an agenda.
Yeah,
It's still gonna be posted. It's still gonna be
Yes.
on
Yeah.
Zoom. All of those things are, yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But they're
Yeah.
usually limited to like one thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Just one topic.
I'm
Okay.
comfortable with that. Okay, so that's what you wanted to call it as a working session. Okay, when could we have the working session? Don't all ask or respond at once.
Do we have to see if the room's available?
Yes.
If we
But that's
choose to.
provided on the, yeah, I could. When are you thinking, this month or
That's
next
why-
month?
That's
or-
why I'm asking.
Yeah, sooner the better.
Can you just see what the availability looks like and tell us availability?
I can't do that right now.
No,
But I can.
so
Right.
could maybe we work
Would it be
together
this?
and get
Maybe
a
send
date?
out 3 dates and see what has the most.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would
That
be
usually
better.
works best.
Okay,
Mondays? Is it Monday? What day?
Yeah,
It's
Monday.
Monday.
Uh,
No, for once I know, I was really excited that it was Monday, that I knew the answer. But I know
So
what
that's
day.
that just takes me, I have to just look at the calendar, so.
so,
I can
so
go back.
at the risk of being yelled at, would Tuesday work?
Tuesday,
Better than.
sure.
Depending on the Tuesday, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, would a Thursday work?
Oh, now you're giving too many.
No,
Oh, wow.
Don't
No,
give too
hold
many
on.
options.
I have duties.
Leave it
on
open.
Thursday.
Leave it open.
So it sounds like Tuesday might be the time to do it.
I'll take a look at Tuesdays. Are we talking for this month?
Are we thinking tomorrow? Are we thinking a week from?
I will not be here tomorrow. I leave town tomorrow morning. What? I know.
Just when you guys might want to meet without me. He's gonna give us some dates. Let's
Okay.
keep going.
Okay,
Let's keep
all right.
crushing our list.
So not tomorrow.
But it sounds like Tuesday wouldn't be a bad night.
No, it's good.
All right. Okay, good.
Yeah, there's,
is
it's
bad.
bad, but there's city council.
Well, does it, I guess if it has to be on Zoom,
Oh, no.
it doesn't.
I thought it did.
I thought it
It has to be
did.
recorded and posted.
That's what we were told.
I think
It
it
has
just,
to be open.
Yeah,
Open doesn't necessarily mean it has to be recorded, it just means it has to be open.
Okay, could you confirm that for us?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Chris, it does have to be recorded.
Okay, thank you.
Cute room downstairs.
Don't
Isn't
worry.
that also high
There's
tech?
no place to record that.
There's no high tech in there. Okay.
It's gotta be this room.
This is the only savable room.
Because if it didn't have to be recorded, I'd go to the library.
I go to the club. Get some napkins.
I suppose, yeah, council chambers is another option.
All right,
But the-
thank you.
It's at least recordable.
I don't know if I want.
Thanks,
I
Greg.
can't open
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I can't.
Okay.
You're welcome.
For the record, I did say it did. I mean.
it might be the
He's
chief.
got a one up me.
Still in charge.
Never good enough.
Okay,
I know that.
so I will prepare an agenda for that and we'll pick a date. And
Bingo.
we'll debate.
Right, if can we send the most current copy of the
Proposal order.
It
documents
was
because
that, Eric sent.
this time it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Was that, no, it was the presentation.
Was it email, whatever it was, of his last email? Did you send that email today? Yeah, it's all.
Okay,
It's
okay.
Here it is.
Oh, no, maybe I didn't see that. Okay. All right, cool. That'll be great.
It's just a presentation. Oh, it is?
I don't think that the.
I thought it would look more legal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good point.
that's not a bunch of pictures.
Yeah,
Look more legal.
yeah.
So who would have the most recent copy?
You.
I would. That's a scary thought.
You submitted it.
Deer in the headlights.
It's in there somewhere.
Okay.
In the cloud.
All right.
One
so-
dated 8/23. Does anybody know if that's the most recent? Cause
I think that's it.
yeah, I have it. If you want me to
If you
send
want
it
to
to
share
you.
it, yeah.
What
Or I
year?
can send it to
What
you.
year?
When did we start this?
I'm really glad this group has a sense of humor. It makes it a lot easier.
You have to at this point.
Oh, man. I gotta start watching Parks and Rec again to see how closely.
Yeah, right. Okay,
That you're like-
unless anyone has an objection, I want to move on to the next
Let's
the
do
next
it.
issue. So the next one is an update regarding complete streets. So Clark, I don't know if you're probably the person.
I think we need to, at our next meeting, have a report from the city, an update on their position and how they're moving that forward. And
Okay,
how they're going to interact with us and so forth.
so I have really mixed feelings about this, and I'm just gonna share this personally. I think it's a wonderful idea, and I would do anything I could do to promote it. But I don't think it's ours. It's way too big. Our mission has grown, our kind of vision of what we do has grown, and I think we gotta get realistic. and cut
Yeah, but
that
we
back.
don't own it. We're proposing the ordinance that the city would pass. They're the ones that own it.
Mhm,
After the ordinance passes, we don't own that.
mhm.
No, I
We're
understand.
just
I'm
applying-
just saying,
You know, we're looking at these decisions, like all this conversation about Elm.
yeah,
We're looking through our ordinance through the lens of what a complete streets policy means when we're making decisions. Very similar to the parking policy.
It's like,
I think I would just like, now, miss, I think that article in the Times about Kirkwood
included so much, I mean, how they did intersections. I mean, at this point, I think all we're gonna do is just forward that to the city council, make sure they've read it. And, I mean, I think Chris is right, and I think you're right, but our hands are tied, so just keep asking that.
I think what I heard the mayor say in that meeting again
Uh-huh.
was, because if you look at what our charge really is, it's very minimal.
Yes,
And it's other duties as assigned by city council. And that sort of goes back to your earlier thing about what our goal should be.
uh-huh.
And, what the mayor said was, I think it's pretty clear you guys maybe could focus on education. Maybe that's something that something that we all have some energy around, that maybe it's intersection. I thought it should be crosswalks.
I guess my point is, Clark, there's a whole group that's gonna work on this new.
Yeah, and we
vision.
need to be a part of it, is what I'm saying.
But let me finish, okay? I think it's an important thing, and I think the city is taking it on in the way they should, with a separate group working on it. Now, if that group comes back to us and says, in the implementation phase, we think you have a role, and here's the role we see for you, then great. But I don't think we can assume that we're gonna have any role at all in that.
What's the group you're mentioning? Are you talking
So
about the
there's a-
community task force?
Yes,
For the
there's a
Safe
task
Streets for All
force,
money we got?
right?
Alright,
Yeah, and I think we need to be a part of that. I
Right.
think sustainability needs to be a part of that. I don't think we should sit around and wait.
I think we have to sit around and wait.
Wouldn't it be fair if maybe we all had a delegate or two to that community task
Exactly.
force?
Exactly.
Cause then,
Well, then can we make that a request? A formal request
Yeah,
that as part of this new task force, we would like to have some participation?
absolutely. We need to, I guess what I'm saying is we need participation in that. Because then we can report back, we can report up, as opposed to just sitting around and waiting.
I like that, I do.
is that the same meeting y'all just had with the mayor, the,
That meeting was to sort of clear the air about all these issues. About the parking issue,
okay.
about, yeah,
Cause David asked me if I was available and I said I'm going out of town and then I didn't hear anything. I think it was that meeting.
I think so.
Okay. So, but that was not the same thing as the Safe Streets for All Community Task Force, that had nothing.
No.
They
no
haven't
overlap.
gotten down
Okay.
that road yet.
And right now, we're in the complete streets update part of our meeting, so who's the point person in the city government for?
Right now, it would be Marie Peoples and
Okay.
Eric Peterson. But they're
Okay.
hiring a position for that.
For two folks, right? Two new people?
I'm aware of one.
Oh, okay, I thought it was two. Okay,
Yeah, I think it's one.
I think it's one.
Okay.
Okay, so, how do we do
Thank you.
this? Should I draft a letter and everyone look at it and then we send that letter to the city?
I think you can just send it to say, we would like to have 2 delegates on the community task force from our.
Maybe go to David with that.
and are they gonna publish that opportunity to the public and people can apply to be on the task force or?
Early days, I'm not entirely sure.
It's
the answer to this
fresh.
question, yeah.
Okay,
One thing that's ironic about it is that the people that care the most in Webster Groves are in this room already.
yes.
And
I was
for
gonna
that
say.
committee to not be this group,
Yeah.
or some of the people who have attended.
Well,
I
and,
agree.
and you know what? You're exactly right. All of us were kind of shocked to find out that we didn't even have any involvement.
Dr. Peoples raised her hand.
Yes?
I think I got you. You're up, Doctor.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, wow. Am I live?
I got you have your hand up, so maybe
did.
you could address some of these questions, because I don't have an answer.
Excellent. I'm just listening to the meeting. Apologies. I haven't done this as an attendee, so I don't know if I'm on camera or not, but I'm waving.
Your photograph is
Photograph.
Oh, okay. Well,
And all 5 fingers of yours are up, not just, 1 or 2.
It showed your hand raised. You do not have a comment.
I do have a comment, so I
Okay,
will be.
all right.
I would refer you all to the one pager about the SS4A grant that I sent some time ago, and I'm happy to resend it. We wrote in the grant that there was already a TAC delegate on this task force that would be formed later. So that's already in motion. So having 2 delegates, we can certainly talk about that, but you guys are gonna be instrumental on the task force. And we are moving forward with the SF4A grant. We have not started hiring for those positions yet. The reason we have not is we're waiting. So it's a federal grant, as you all know, and it has to then go through Missouri Department of Transportation. We're currently working with our project manager at MoDOT to get the agreements finalized and signed. We are really, really close on that. I think we'll probably have the full approval, within the next 2 weeks. When we receive that, we will start hiring, and there's 2.5 positions. We have a project manager solely for this position. We have I don't have it in front of me, so apologies. It has different names than that, but a project manager. And then we have the task force liaison that's going to be leading this along with all of the other community groups, and then a 0.5 public affairs community engagement person. So that's all I wanted to share. Please do pin your letter. I'm happy to receive it, but just please know you all are very included in the task force as we move forward.
Thank you.
Dr.
That's a
Peoples,
relief.
can I ask who your MoDOT project manager is?
Rebecca is her first name, and apologies, I cannot think of her last name right now, but we've stayed in they've been great to work with. I think the slower side of the communication has really been from the feds. And as you know, there were only a couple SS4A grants awarded in Missouri, and they've just really been trying to pull all of that together to get the agreement. So we haven't started billing against any of that, and that's why we can't post the positions, because we can't until the contracts are executed.
I think she's an LP on the house there.
That's excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification.
Of course, have a good night, everyone.
You too. Okay, we got an answer. Great. Any more discussion about that?
Was it to all of Webster residents or something?
Was it to the SS4A one pager that she referenced?
I don't recall seeing it,
I
but
don't either.
maybe she's gonna send it
Okay,
again.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on that?
Move on to 3.
Okay. Update on the proposed restriping of South Elm. So let me back up again a minute and talk about several of these. What I noticed when I was speaking earlier, what I noticed going through all these Traffic Advisory Commission items is that item after item after item after item, there was some thing that we were waiting for. We were waiting for data, or we were waiting for feedback on this issue, or we were waiting. And one of the things that was said at the meeting with the mayor and with the city manager was that we have sort of overwhelmed the Public Works Department with requests for information and stuff. And that we need to rethink what we're doing and decide the things that we can decide and put together a priority list sort of the things that we are waiting for. Because otherwise, these things are just going to continue to go week and month after month after month after month and not get resolved.
We're not waiting on anything. I don't think right now.
Well,
We got our traffic data on, we're waiting on responses to memorandums of like suggestion and requests. And some of those have been in like the South Elm parking, the striping on South Elm.
okay, so the
We
first,
put that memo in a year ago. It never got a response.
And sustainability and our group thing sent the ordinance request up to the city and hasn't heard back in a year, but that wasn't y'all, that was to I think folks in this building, right?
what was it again?
That was
That was our
the complete streets request.
That's a little-
Yeah, which now is kind of weird overlapping dovetailing with the new money.
Right.
But I have a question, which is that every time we talk about it, everyone's like, yes, we should have crosswalks painted at Cedar and Jackson. Like, why can't that just be moved up to number 1 on the public works list? Like even crappy ones that don't meet the complete streets
So normally,
criteria.
I know at least for
just
the,
to get in there.
for the project list that we have, that we're using that as like a demonstration proposal to see, how that all will play together. And I know that's at least, because normally, and I guess in the perfect world before we got into SF4A, sure. But I know now.
Now there's, okay.
Yeah, so now we have a whole priority list of basically, hey, how can we lump this in to help increase our chances of getting this?
So now it gets pushed back more getting those crosswalks because we're waiting until perfection can be attained.
Not necessarily, it's, I know for at least when we're doing these grant proposals, I know at least we're using them as, I guess, meet within them. Like it's something like for us to be like, hey, we want to do this as a demonstration. So it's just getting something on paper for us, and
Okay.
then from there, we can look at it moving forward, so.
So one of the challenges right now is that we do not have a system for each specific issue to be a document to fill out.
Yeah.
That's then gonna be reviewed by the city. You know, and then placed in the queue and given a priority.
Mm,
That process does not exist today.
mhm.
That's kind of what we want to have happen. In the meantime, Paul, and I'm asking you because you're close to it. What would we
To an
put
extent.
together for you
Mm.
to make this simpler in the interim? Because I really think there's a better process coming, but I think it's
Yes.
probably gonna take a bit.
I know, so my role within S4A is relatively fairly small. I know I help out with whatever I get asked to do. I'm trying to think of more for what, Ms. Vera has been dealing with.
Oh.
Cause I know, cause she's been really spearheading most of it, at least for the public first part, and I've been helping her out. But I know for getting all the requests in, it's more saying, hey, what is really the most priority? Cause if you say, hey, let's do X, Y, Z, 1 through 5, let's see what's going on. Okay, well, back when we were fully staffed and before we had all this to navigate, sure, we could just start knocking out things piece by piece and seeing what sticks. Now we have to go ahead and make sure it's prioritized a certain way. So I know it just wants to say, hey, let's focus on one. We all agree that this is the one we want to focus on for this like month or whatever, and then, hey, we agree, we all agree that this is like important for us. And then from there, we can look at it and then attack it.
Just from my perspective, if we could even get a crosswalk
Mm.
done. It would be
Oh,
great,
yeah,
like
no.
an accomplishment, that we, something we could
Mhm.
say.
Mm.
Cause that came up when I first started.
Yeah.
attending.
Which was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we have time to do this
Mm.
right at this moment, step by step, but I think maybe if Paul and I could sit down and go through this action item list
Mhm.
and check off the things where the data has been provided.
Mm.
Or what are we waiting on? Maybe actually, Terry, you and I could run through it quickly and see what you think we're waiting for. And then Paul and I could sit down and go through it.
Cause my involvement with S4A is maybe out of the whole 100%, maybe like 5%, 7% maybe.
Right.
So let me clarify this. All of this that we're asking for is the goal to be able to use SS4A funds to be able to do these things that we're asking for.
I believe so.
So we need to reframe our request in light of
Mhm.
using grant money.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Wait, so we can't do that until they hire the project manager
Mhm.
and this and that and the other thing, right?
Well, this is,
I don't-
it may well be
Goals
that
never
some of
gonna
the
be
things
big
that we're asking for have nothing to do with this.
Well, I'm sure they do, because SS4 would ask for them if we weren't asking for them, I'm pretty
Right.
sure. Right?
I think you're right. Striping, crosswalks.
Now, if we're
Exactly.
waiting for
Jeremy,
money,
yeah.
Then we're out of luck, because we have to wait, who knows how long, 9 months, 6 months? If
Well-
we don't have to wait for SS4, we're just like, forget, it, pay out of general fund, or whatever it is that comes from. Then it
So-
can be done now.
So if we did it out of the general fund, it would be like an ugly,
It
you
would,
know,
it
basic
would,
crosswalk, but if we were to wait, we can get the fancy, all the
I get-
SS4A.
yeah, hypothetically, because ultimately without SS4A, it would be a general work order, and then from
Can we
there.
put those in and just get those two
Yes.
crosswalks at
I-
Cedar and
that's above
Jackson?
my pay grade.
Yeah, so,
Vera, is she above your pay grade? Okay.
but if we can put together a list, whether it's 2 or
Yeah.
3 or 5 or 7 items that we wanted, that are important to us. And we prioritize them, then at least they have our
Yeah,
request.
yeah.
Sorry.
Clarified.
For us, what's the difference between a crosswalk now and a crosswalk under SS4? What I mean is, do we care? Is it good enough as it is, or is it not good enough as it is? Just like, well, they put a light and a flashing thing and a hand pressed button and that, is that what we get with SS4?
No, and so initially, I think from my understanding of it is, so we're gonna go ahead and get traffic studies and kind of go from there, kind of do a full length in-depth search and see what's beneficial with it.
Mm.
What's needed, how's that, like, you
That's
know.
what SS4A does.
We're gonna use that money to help fund, to get the money
Well,
to
yeah,
do
no,
a traffic study, but yes. That's my understanding as of today.
Does anybody feel like we're gonna get a junky crosswalk and be regretting it 3 years from now?
No.
Okay.
I mean,
That's what I wanted
it sounds like it's a juicier carrot if we do nothing now, but that's crazy. So.
No, and that wasn't my point. My point was, I feel like we're gonna ask for these things and we're gonna get another, we're waiting on.
Yeah.
X, Y, Z, so
Red thing.
it'll be
Yes.
another year.
And every morning kids are crossing.
And you feel that's unavoidable and that's where we are?
No, I was just trying to clarify that point. I just pulled up our South Elm striping request and it was submitted April 17th, 2023. So it's been a year. And I think part of that was we wanted to get counts after we put it in.
Mm-hmm.
I am confused. What do we have to do to get it moved to the top?
We're all confused for that question.
So right now, we have many items
Yeah,
that we've
right.
asked for.
Yeah.
And we have never prioritized them. We have just put them, they're kind of by date. But I suspect that this crosswalk issue is probably our number one. So we probably need to say to the Public Works Department and to the city, we see these as these priorities. So that they can at least have our input when they sit down to try to talk through that.
How do we get them to acknowledge, okay, we'll do it, or we will not do it because of SS4A? I'd want them to just say, thank you very much for your recommendation, we're not gonna do it.
I don't know that they're in a position to give us that right now. All I'm saying is if we give them our priorities, they have the best tool to work with going forward.
But can't we ask them, will you or won't you do it?
No, we can't ask them because the leadership for this organization doesn't even exist today.
We
Public Works
got a
exists
lot of
today.
no's
But
on things,
Public
other
Works-
things. so-
The Public Works does, and the city council does. I
Yeah.
feel like we've
So
done a lot
Chris,
of things.
are
up the
you
chain.
asking to look at all the things that we would consider a work order and to prioritize them and give them to Public Works?
I'm just saying, we have this list of things that we're waiting on. Of this list of things that we're waiting on, which ones are important
Yeah.
from our perspective? There are other people are gonna have other perspectives.
But so maybe compile it in a one-line thing
Yeah,
and send it out and we all put one,
Yeah.
you vote on it.
Yeah.
You add up the votes, 1 through 8 or whatever they are.
right.
And we can come up with our priorities.
That's all I'm
When
saying.
it's done, I wanna know, I want the city to say, we're not going to do it, or the city to say, you got 6 months and we'll have them all done. I want them to acknowledge their position.
Right.
I want someone to say, here's why we can't, and we'll accept that probably. But I want to know because citizens come to us and say they're unhappy.
Yeah, but that's not gonna happen just because I think that's. It was just. So.
We explain that, but.
Well, I just think, denying a request, that's. I think they're smart enough. to avoid the
Okay,
answer.
well, we can still ask, right?
I think we should ask. I agree. We've put a lot of, a lot of ours just we get strung along. I mean,
Alright.
for lack of a better term.
Raised hand
Yeah.
here.
Yes.
Yeah, and that too.
And so everybody's very.
Yeah, no more,
Happy.
another elections will be coming.
She probably better, way better than I can.
Thank you for.
Okay, I think, yep. You're unmuted.
Oh, thank you. Would you like clarification now, or would you like me just to send an email and clarify some of the discussion points?
I think now would be great.
I just didn't want to interrupt the meeting process. So there's been quite a bit said, so I'll probably miss some, but I do want to provide clarification that we have not denied any requests because we're waiting on SF4A. I don't have your agenda in front of me and I don't have all the various requests in front of me as well. I wasn't planning on speaking with the group tonight. So I'm happy to dig into detail later. Really what the meeting with the mayor, Mr. Redford, Mr. Hoteling, and Councilman Franklin was about organizing the work. The requests have come in various ways, and that has been complicated to figure out what is a priority, what's a suggestion. They've also kind of trickled in from individual members rather than as a body. What I am asking for is clarification on what is a TAC recommendation and then to have the group prioritize it. Many of the recommendations, and again, I don't have them in front of me, so apologies, but they require traffic studies, traffic counts. And so we have to put that into the workload, which is a combination in between the police department, planning, public works, you know, wherever that specific thing fits in. So please don't hear that as a won't do it, that we're not willing, but we have to put it in queue. And so that really comes into what are the priorities, and we're happy to do that. That also gets to that action list that I believe I heard Mr. Redford discuss, because I'm sure there's some things that are left on the table that we haven't addressed, and that's not purposefully. That's us not wanting to answer. That's us being confused by the various routes that things are coming up. And I will share with you, and Paul has done a great job, so hi there, Paul. But there's things I always listen to the meetings retrospectively, and there are things where you guys are asking, and I'm like, oh, that hasn't made it to me. I'm not sure where it's at. So I think if it's on an action list and you all are ticking it off, then we know specifically what is it that you're waiting on, whether it's Vera, whether it's me to respond to. And then I would also recommend that some funding go along with it. Some of these projects will be funded by SS4A, but that absolutely is not the crux of us saying yes or no of a project. We do have general funds, Public Works has funds, Police Department has funds. So it depends on what the priority is and what department it fits best. So thank you for letting me interrupt, but if you guys can come up with that priority list, I promise you, we will get you responses. And some of it may be we're waiting on SS4A, but to date, that has not been a response yet.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I greatly appreciate all of your discussions. This is hard work.
And Dr. Peoples, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is the goal is that those requests then will be funneled though, or, you know, in the future through Public Works? Is that correct? And then captured and documented, and then some might come to us, sort of like they've come through the police department in the past.
Yes, they will be documented. And you know, as we talked about in that previous meeting that I referenced, and thank you, is that so TAC puts up the request, but we also get random requests from residents. They may come in on the Fix-It form. They may be emailed to the different people. And so we're really trying to figure out a way to capture all of those.
Yes.
Because they are getting lost. I'll be the first one to admit that. And there's nothing nefarious behind it, but when you have requests coming in 10 different ways, you're not sure which desk it lands on. So if you can organize these in a fashion and have that tick list. So that is the goal. They will all come up through Public Works, even if they need to be funneled to another department. We will have a repository and a responsible body for them.
So can I ask this question, and maybe you guys decided this in your meeting, but when we first started coming up with our own ideas and wanting to make suggestions, we asked how to do that and we were told, I don't know, write a memorandum and submit it. But we were never given a formal process of any kind. I don't even know where we've been submitting those memorandums, I mean, is there a process that is identified or that we can identify? Here's what we give you, here's who we give it to. And then I think that would help us because it's been very unclear
Here's where
to
it's
us.
captured.
Yeah,
My belief is that's coming.
okay,
That's coming fairly soon. In the past, I think we relied on Captain Perks to carry that forward for us. But he's got a lot on his plate too. So I think this new process we're talking about is fantastic. I really, really think that's gonna help us.
but what process do if we're submitting
It's
a
gonna,
list
it's
now?
gonna come, but in the interim,
Okay,
what she's asking for is this list right that we have in front of us right
okay,
here.
and we send it to Dr. Peoples?
Yes.
Okay.
Can start there.
Yeah. Thanks again.
Absolutely. So Mr. Redford, I'll get back with you and we can schedule some time just to get some more clarifications. I won't hijack any more of the meeting, but I trust we're all on the right path.
I think we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I mean, I want to say one thing that I thought of, which is back to total basics. When I started here in like 2021, coming to these meetings, what we got were emails to Captain Perks about a stop sign. We would go look at it. We would look at the MA, whatever. Yes.
And the traffic study.
Yes, and do a traffic if necessary, and then we would say yay or nay. But so, like, can't we just do that right now for for crosswalks at Jackson and Cedar. We know they're needed. We could all vote on it. can
So
just
I
do that.
have,
That should be on that.
I have a list of maybe 6 or 8 items, and frankly, I think it would be worth it to just take the time right now, because I imagine she's gonna be giving me a call. Let's prioritize them right now. So the first one is traffic quieting on North
Wait,
Elm.
can you read them all before we?
I see.
Traffic calming on
I-
North
I-
Elm
I
is
got you.
first. Okay.
So North Elm, and remember, North Elm it was said that that would be a great pilot for a process going forward, like complete streets.
Mhm.
So let's sit on that
For a
one. a while.
demonstration.
For
Or
demonstration.
demonstration, okay? So that's one to consider. The second one is a consistent policy for requesting the shared, it's on, shared on-street parking, so we know where that one, that's on our lap. The next one is number of traffic advisory commission members and other Webster Grove residents have expressed interest in complete streets. So we know where that one is. We're not waiting on anybody for that. The next one is need for traffic calming along South Elm. So that is one to vote on. Another one is resident requested restricted parking on Newport, and that one we're putting off for the parking issue. Resident requested a lower speed limit on Kirkham north of Elm, and on that one, we've been waiting for some traffic data.
I thought we said no, not needed.
Yeah, I think we got the traffic data and that was, it dropped from 30 to like 35, no, 35 to 30 or something, I believe. But I think that there was no.
So here's what I wrote on the 11/13 meeting. Now that the problem collecting speed and count data has been resolved, this data can be obtained soon. But I'm not aware that we've got it.
Yeah, 'cause I think Jason did put up his counters for that one, but I know, I put out, so I don't know where that data is, but I think from talking with Jason and or Perks, that there was nothing really sending out that would be a problem. I think, and we talked about that last meeting.
Okay, so we don't have it, but it's coming. Is that,
I think so. I don't know. I think it's Perks.
Yeah, I
Paul,
thought
yeah,
we-
I'm
I thought we
listening,
dealt
Paul,
with
I'm
that
here.
one.
Paul, I'm here. I believe we have that data. Well, I'll be able to check when I get in the office, but I believe that data, we do have it, and there was not a speeding issue on that would warrant a signage change.
That was resolved.
I'll double
Yeah.
check.
I thought we had resolved that one.
Yeah.
I
Just
I
say
believe we
no.
did resolve that one, and it was,
Yeah,
it was resolved, and there was no warranted for a speed change on that section.
Yeah.
okay,
Thank you,
so are we in agreement that that one can be deleted?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so that's done. The next one, Traffic Advisory Commission goals to be developed, a standard process, and that's being worked on. Not by us, but that's fine, but, ultimately.
Could I contact someone who's working on that and get involved
Yes,
more directly to
Yeah,
the meeting?
and
I
I think
think
it's
that-
Vera, was it Vera?
Miss Vera probably.
Do you know
She's
Vera?
awesome. She's really
No.
awesome.
She's the acting head of Public Works.
Okay.
She attended this meeting that we had a few weeks ago. So that would be great. Okay, the next one, safety of pedestrians along Colebrook. And I said, due to time constraints, this issue was tabled until the next meeting. So we have not done anything with that one.
Which
That's, I
one was
guess,
that one? Sorry.
so,
Colebrook.
Oh,
yeah, so the citizens
Oh.
came and complained about Colebrook and the difficulty their kids have crossing
Are they
traffic.
talking about putting sidewalks in there?
But their work is being done.
I know we did counts on Colebrook with
Okay,
our data.
Mhm.
so do we know where that is? I
I
mean,
have it.
you have the data.
It's right again. So I haven't had a request to present it for anything.
I'm sorry, Paul. What I'm asking is, what's the next step? Or is it in our plate or is it on your plate or what?
Oh,
what
I
is
can
it?
present the data if needed. I know we put it out there for our own curiosity. Kind of, we had complaints about volume.
Mm.
Okay,
Traffic volume
Will
or?
that change when the construction is over?
Right now, they're complaining that people are using Colebrook too much because of the construction, so.
Right,
and
so that will change.
Yes,
Did you guys do speeds or just volume?
speed, volume. And nothing stood out that was.
So Harry,
outrageous.
what is our expectation for that? Is that they will make a report and draw conclusions, or that we will look at it, or?
Didn't the Colebrook person mention they wanted a crosswalk somewhere?
Yeah, behind the school, or there is one there.
Was that Ashley?
Yeah,
Yeah, there is one there.
there is one, but they wanted a second.
Well,
Okay.
actually, what I think is happening is that as a result of the construction, they're moving it. It's not gonna be where it was, it's gonna be in a better place. I hear
I think that's
crickets.
something we could put on our agenda to discuss, because I feel like
Okay, so this one, we're gonna discuss, is that what I'm hearing?
we
And,
should
and I
discuss
guess,
it. It says in our to-do list that we tabled it and we
Yeah,
never
right.
really discussed it.
so, Paul, next meeting, could you bring that
Yeah, I,
up for us?
yeah, I'll talk with Ms. Vera and then go from there. And
Okay.
then
What's the time frame for the end of that construction that's happening?
They're open by
Yeah.
football season, so
They're playing at Kirkwood again next year.
no, they're not.
I think so.
I don't have the time.
Well, okay, maybe I'm wrong.
No, maybe they-
Spread false
Wait, is
info.
that new info? Because they were never supposed to, unless that's changed. They were saying open by football season. A long way to go.
Yeah, that changes more than.
Oh, I know. Well, I didn't expect them to get Hickson done when they said it would be done and they did, so,
Are your kids gonna be seniors?
junior.
Oh, junior, okay.
So they want a sidewalk and they might be wanting a crosswalk.
I don't think we
They have-
know
they
enough.
have a
I don't
sidewalk.
think we know enough to put
They
it on our.
do not
priority
have a
list.
sidewalk.
The sidewalk only goes.
The
100 feet.
sidewalk only goes, 100 feet,
Yeah.
so they have no sidewalk on Colebrook.
I don't
They're
think
looking
we,
towards
I
Glendale.
took
I
a
don't think we
picture
have
of it.
enough.
It's only about 100 feet long.
If
It's
you're going
really
towards
short.
Forest, towards the highway, you have a little bit of one, but then it stops. If you go towards Glendale, there's no sidewalk.
There's no sidewalk to the south.
I'm gonna have to adjust my eyes and go look again then.
Yeah,
'cause
you have it pulled
I
up,
vividly remember a
the
picture.
aerial, yeah,
I don't think we know enough information about them
Okay.
prioritizing that because
yeah.
we don't know what the request is.
Right,
no.
well,
Revisit that one
Yeah.
pretty quickly.
we'll bring that up at the next meeting. Okay, the last one I have is a two-way stop at the intersection of Clark and Margaret should be a four-way stop. And I have, it was suggested that instead of a four-way stop, perhaps a cross-traffic does not stop sign
That would help.
would be better. Has that been resolved?
I think you're looking into it.
Captain
Margaret.
Kirk said that was not.
The data has to support.
Okay. Acting Chief Burks proposed a traffic volume study and incident history be done to determine how best to respond. That's how I,
So even for cross traffic does not stop.
Is
That
that
would
where
have
you
to
see
be.
that you can just put up?
Yeah.
Even
That
straight
would
out
That could be
area.
an action item for the work, for the,
Yes,
work order.
that,
I can't remember what
Right.
Clark and
So
Margaret
this one-
is.
That's right by,
The signage
Right,
would not necessarily
Oh.
be something that, as long as you're not putting up a stop sign
right.
or a crosswalk or
Some
something that
people
needs
don't
to be
realize
supported
that.
by Dave.
by the traffic data.
And then it just.
Okay.
That would be a
Most
request that you
park
can make
four
through
ways.
Public Works.
Around.
A
there.
recommendation.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if they're most 4 ways down.
You make a
around-
recommendation, doesn't necessarily mean it.
Yeah, well, that could, if that's something that could
Yeah.
get done, that would be great.
So just procedurally, is it better for us to try to fill out a list, or is it better for us to just make a formal request?
If we put together a list, I can make sure the list gets to the appropriate person.
Well, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take this and prepare that list.
Mainly, it's gonna be Vera. That list will get forwarded to her and then she can go about the process of, you know, as they come in, she prioritizes.
Was that the last item?
That was it.
Because I didn't hear crosswalk at Cedar and crosswalk at Jackson.
The North Elm, it's all lumped
That's part
together.
of it.
Yeah, I mean South Elm, sorry.
Okay,
Yeah,
so-
South Elm Common.
Yeah, wrong one.
Thank you for pointing that out. So that has to get on my list, is a crosswalk at Cedar.
It was Cedar and South Elm.
And we could.
And
pull that
South
out.
Elm and Jackson.
Cedar and at,
Chris, it's included basically, I think, in the whole thing for traffic calming on South Elm. So I don't know that it needs to be separate.
Well,
Unless we wanted it. to be
I'm wondering
separate.
if we pull it apart, if it'll happen.
Right.
I think that would happen.
'Cause
That's
we
something we need now.
But you have to understand, you can make these recommendations. It will go to Public Works, to the police department. We will then do a traffic study on that to see if in the manual it even warrants the crosswalk, the stop sign,
That's right,
et cetera.
It does.
There's
it-
no
we already.
crosswalk
That,
warrants.
that is determined purely through the data.
There-
There has to be a percentage of crossing.
No, there's no crosswalk. There's no crosswalk in the MUTCD. There's no requirements. You
Well, I
don't
think,
have to
okay, I mean, I'll refer to you on that,
a
that's.
warrant study for crosswalks.
It was sort of accidentally taken away at some point, the one at Cedar there, and they had a crossing guard forever and they had a stop sign, the person would
We
like
should
turn.
turn a stop sign.
Remember that? And then it sort of accidentally disappeared and nobody took the job to be the crosswalk person. It's been on for 8 years, it's been posted
Really?
on Hickson's.
So again,
Yeah.
just to remain, stay on task. Creating the list, creating what you all feel is the most important action items on that list. And then I will forward that list
Yeah.
to Vera, and then she will then go through Public Works to take.
Okay.
a decision.
Then I mean, what we've heard is that traffic calming on South Elm would be the highest priority, except there's a whole bunch of other stuff and I don't even know what it is. But we know we want the crosswalk for Cedar and Jackson. I'm kind of, what do you do about that? Do we have to keep talking until we break out all the pieces or we just?
No, I think now that we've gone through this list, that was your suggestion, let's go through the list first. Now that we've gone through the list, let's prioritize them, and I will write the new prioritized list from that. Okay, so I'm taking it that priority number 1 is gonna be those 2 crosswalks. Anybody have an objection? Okay, so that's number
Second.
1.
Second that motion.
Okay, should we do it in a more formal way and
Or maybe just at the conclusion with the list.
Yeah.
okay,
Are there any items on there that would be the longest that have been
Oh, man, outstanding the longest.
outstanding, and would you want to work that way?
at the end of the day, no.
I think in this group though, I think the North Elm would be next, even though the fire chief and the police chief were against
We
it.
got a no on that one.
Yep,
But the city manager said that she has to listen to, take staff recommendations, but if we want to pursue it, that's up to us.
Yes.
Now, are you talking about the crosswalks or are you
No,
talking?
no,
we're
this is
talking
a
about
different issue.
traffic calming on North Elm
Well,
between.
those are two, in my opinion, those are two separate.
Mhm.
Well,
things.
they are definitely.
We've moved on to the second.
So you're suggesting that we should make that one number 2.
That would be my number 2, but maybe not everybody's.
I'm for Clark and Margaret.
Okay,
Cross traffic does not stop.
Okay.
That seems easy.
that's straightforward and could be done.
Oh, that
And
seems-
driving that way every day, it would help. People don't always realize that.
That would be attainable.
That's a quick,
Yes.
important safety thing.
That's a
We
good,
got it, right?
that's a good number
Crosswalks.
2.
Okay,
Do not, cross traffic does not stop. North Elm is number 3.
okay,
Yes.
so that's 2. North Elm is 3. I'm glad to hear that because I think North Elm would be a good one.
And North Elm is a bigger project.
Yes.
And that might be something that I really think a demonstration project with SS4, you know.
And they may go forward with that as a demonstration.
But I think we need to keep that out there in front of it.
Yeah, okay, I like that.
So did we put number 1 as crosswalks?
Mhm.
And then number 2 was the stop.
Margaret.
So then what about the rest of traffic calming on South Elm? Like striping, narrowing lanes,
Okay, so that would be 4.
putting the signal on all flash.
But
and then
maybe
off
that
peak.
should be,
Well,
That's why that was a demonstration project. And so that's why I think it fell into the S4A hole, if you will.
Yeah,
Now-
it kind of did.
well, now here's the issue though.
Wait, what
Traffic,
The
South
South Elm corridor, so we were gonna do a whole traffic study demonstration for that.
Oh, I meant South Elm between
Hmm.
Lockwood and Big Bend.
That's what we're talking about.
Okay.
So here's what I'm hearing.
No, I-
You're proposing that would be a number 4. And I think that's a great idea, but here's the question. There are lots of traffic calming things that might work. What specifically are we asking them to do,
That's what I just threw 2 out. We talked
Okay.
about narrowing lanes,
right?
and we talked about signals on all flash outside of peaks. Now, signals on all flash outside of peaks would need to be
and I did,
evaluated.
right, and it's funny because peak time for driving might be peak time for walking in also.
Mhm.
So why are we?
Well, that's not good enough. And the other one would be signage too.
Yeah, signage.
Signage of what?
All
So,
the signs at the end request.
yeah.
Do not block
I
intersection.
missed your, sorry. I went and looked through it. You're right. I did miss
I
it,
was,
but
what I was
looked through it.
asking for was signage like on this, that stretch of South Guyer that you worked on that has like very clear crosswalks and it has the solar radar that tells people to slow down going north when they're going down the hill speeding past Buck's house and,
But do we,
That's
do
the 44.
you have a traffic engineer, right?
No.
No, Webster does not.
Well, I'm an ex-traffic engineer from MoDOT, but technically no.
Yeah.
well, you're the.
Sorry, I didn't mean to discount you, but
No, you're
they don't give you the title, like, you don't have that official role.
So I mean, if we said traffic calming, who is that Public Works decides what's?
Essentially, yes, we would basically go ahead and break it down and and talk with PD and basically go ahead and discuss our findings.
But at that point, then it is SS4A and just wait, right? I mean, it's too.
Well, that's what I was saying, like, well,
complicated.
the reason why that was postponed, because that it was a demonstration project that we were gonna put on that for have a consultant do. And have a whole litany of extra stuff that we don't have.
Well, so what I'm hearing is that it makes sense to do the crosswalks and separate them from the traffic
Yes.
calming and let you guys do your work on the traffic calming and come back with a proposal or a plan.
And really quickly, one of the number one things I hear from residents on that stretch of South Elm is they want enforcement of the speed limit.
Mhm.
Way, much more enforcement of the speed limit, and they want cops to sit at
Swan.
this one intersection. People run that, I cannot think of another stoplight in St. Louis that people run all day, every day with no repercussions, and there are places to say. The cop presence would be so, that would be so effective. Where? At Swan and South Elm.
Can we
Yeah.
ask for that and expect to get it?
People have been calling and asking, and the police say
But
there
is-
isn't a place to sit.
It in the long run, isn't that a short-term solution?
Yeah,
Just
but
like that guy said, well, it used to be, that cop would sit down there on
Yeah.
Manchester,
Tired.
but it's ultimately the design of
It is the
Manchester.
design, so it's the
Short-term
FS4A that
Until
we need.
SS4.
Yeah,
I can speak to that and I will, follow up with that request. That's a, reasonable request that we can forward through
Thank
to
you.
patrol and the rest of the department.
if you guys come to my house, you're welcome, we'll sit, have coffee and just watch.
You've been inviting people to your house for years.
We got a great front porch and you can watch all the people running the light, it's really fun, play with my toddler.
Well, but the problem is, and I've recently talked to a number of people who live in St. Louis City who say it is a
Oh,
nightmare.
it's.
And so this is a cultural thing that unfortunately
Post
we're
pandemic.
faced with, and I don't know what the answer is to
And that
that.
was.
So those are our top four.
Those, yeah, it looks like those are our top
Well,
four.
Okay, what I want to clarify, priority one crosswalk, because priority two is probably request one enforcement, isn't it? Or is that have a number in here? or
For
is it just-
the one and only.
Wait.
Right, you said you can
That is
bypass
well.
the
Yeah.
force steps and just make
I
enforcement.
mean, that's a recommendation that you guys can make that is easily.
But that'd be different than that list.
So here's the list. I'll try it one more time. Crosswalks at Cedar and Jackson is number one. Number two is a list, is the two-way stop at Clark and Margaret.
It's the no. It's
No,
the-
cross
yeah,
traffic does not stop.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, not the stop signs, but the other.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
Just signage is what they're, what. we're
Yes.
requesting.
Traffic.
Does not stop. Warning signs.
Some
Signage.
streets like that, I've noticed have yield too.
Okay, the third one, what was the third one?
Traffic calming on North Elm.
Well, I've got that as the fourth item.
No,
Traffic
North
on
Elm.
South Elm.
South Elm is fourth.
That's, okay, that's on, North Elm. North Elm was three.
Mhm.
Got it.
Do we really have a priority between those two? Does anybody, is it?
I
more
feel
important than the other? Okay, no, it's good.
right now you have 2 lanes here. You got 4, that's the only place you got 4 lanes.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's doesn't make any sense.
No, I just didn't know if anybody, if it was, I didn't know it mattered. But it does.
But yeah, that whole stretch of Elm.
That whole stretch is a 55
Needs
mile an
TLC.
hour. Rocket.
Okay.
I motion that to be our list.
I'm second that motion.
All in favor?
Uh,
Okay, I will write this up and I'll copy you.
Thank you.
Okay, just a couple more things that I feel obligated to at least mention the other old business. Update the development of a standard process, we talked about that. In light of a new process for assigning tasks to the Traffic Advisory Commission, assess the relevance of existing old business. We just did that.
mhm.
And I've got a couple that I can scratch and we'll put the list together and that I feel like
Very helpful.
we need to periodically clean the list up. That's my point. So, is there new business? We normally turn to you for that.
We covered a lot of it, in the meeting. So
Okay.
I think with the attendance, that was.
Let's go test out that crosswalk on.
Let's go see if
Okay.
it works when we're walking.
So
You
I,
use it, you use it, we all use it.
I apologize for the kind of helter-skelter way that this meeting unfolded, but thank you. This was really helpful. And to get the commitment from the city to get these things addressed is a huge help. Thank you very
Yes.
much.
So we're gonna have a special meeting, and then do we wanna try to set our next other real meeting?
Yes, so in addition to setting this meeting on Tuesday nights, we also need to pick someday relatively
A Monday,
in
May.
May.
Early May.
It can't be the first week of May, I'll be out of town.
Okay, so
Second.
second week's fine if you've got if we can get the
I'll look at the
space.
second week of May for the next meeting.
You have the post Mother's
And,
Day.
and I'm hearing it doesn't, you guys don't prefer Monday, you prefer Tuesday?
No, we prefer.
No, we
Monday.
for this meeting,
For this.
is
I see.
Monday.
But that's, that extra
Yes,
set
most of
goes
the
on it.
things that we actually had for these are Mondays. That they like sessions and they just do sessions.
Okay, so again, thank you all. I need a
I
motion
we
to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Steve, second. All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
They're out the door before I can get in. Before we can vote.
I can
Thank
take
you,
it home
guys.
and bring it back.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I came in here kind of half baked.
Oh,